You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we are live. You all know the drill up to this point. What are we? Episode 502. We got to let it breathe just for a couple seconds. Make sure it's nice and stable for our great audience out here in Broncos country. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle and powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my fellow football priest, returned off a couple of days to, well, at least a day, to rest. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get back to talking some Broncos and talking with you, our great audience. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, we knew that by the time we went live Wednesday night, we would have an answer on Justin Simmons because the deadline was earlier today at 2 p.m. local time. The deadline came, it passed, no deal. He will play on a franchise tag that'll pay him $11.4 million this year, which is over a 500% increase over what he made last year. So, don't feel too bad for Justin Simmons, but what was your gut reaction? I mean, we already talked about this in a preview sense, but now that it's water under the bridge and it's happened, what was your gut reaction?
I don't share a lot of what Broncos country is feeling. A lot of Broncos fans on Twitter were so shocked and surprised that Justin Simmons didn't sign. When we've been saying it for a while now, it might not happen. The tea leaves suggested that if a deal was going to get done, if they had months to get it done in a normal offseason, it would have gotten done. There's just too many variables right now, too many unknowns, too many questions. I saw the Broncos wanted to make Simmons an offer that would have made him the fifth or sixth highest paid safety in the NFL. I wouldn't take that either. He's better than the fifth or sixth best safety in the NFL. He's a top 3 safety in the NFL, and he's betting on himself. His agent is Todd France. France also represents Dak Prescott, another client who's betting on himself, didn't agree to a franchise tag deal before the tag deadline today. So he's getting good instruction from his agent. Do it again this season. You're going to get a huge contract from Denver next offseason or another team. Safeties are hard to find in the NFL, and he does it all. In run support and pass coverage, he's a leader, good locker room guy. If he can do it again, Chad, he will get his contract. Broncos country needs to just relax a little bit on Justin Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the orange and blue this year. You got him locked down, that $11.4 million, fully guaranteed. But there's a couple things that jump out on this that I wanted to get your thoughts, Zack. And first and foremost is, we have to draw some implications in terms of the Broncos fired their former cap wizard, their chief negotiator, in Mike Sullivan, brought in Rich Hurtado, who, we thought would kind of smooth things out because he comes from the player agent side of the negotiating table. And the Broncos, one of the reasons they liked him, though, if we think back to some of the public remarks we heard from John Elway, is that he was a very tough negotiator, Mr. Hurtado. So I can only take from that Hurtado's, whatever his style is, and as Elway said, a little bit tough, it had a little something to do with how this resulted for Justin Simmons and the Broncos. But, at the end of the day, as I voiced last week, you guys have heard me voice it a few times on this podcast in the calendar year of 2020. I'm sure Elway shares this somewhat, there's at least in the back of his mind, some reservations, Zack, about making him the number 1 highest paid safety. I can understand why the Broncos would drag their feet only because of the 1-year wonder risk. Yes, he's a 3-year starter. Sure. Yes, we know the quality and caliber of leader he is, his football IQ. I mean, he proved to be a great player last year, but the NFL is replete with stories of guys who flashed in a contract year and then never returned to that same level. So on one hand, I can understand that the Broncos, in light of the uncertainty because of the word that shall go unmentioned and revenues and whatnot, and the fact that he had one elite caliber year, that they want to say, look, let's see him do it again. But the risk they run in that, Zack, is if he does end up balling out again this year, which I think both of us expect him to, there's no reason not to expect that he's going to do that. He's a great fit for Fangio, and it's a safety-friendly scheme. But if it shakes out that way, as you talked about, I think it was on Sunday night's podcast, the franchise tag is available again to the Broncos and Justin Simmons in 2021, but it climbs by, 20%? That it'll go up by 20. So the Broncos will have to pay him more then. And if they choose not to tag him, Zack, they open him up to the entire marketplace, all 31 teams, and they'll have to negotiate and compete. And what we've learned, last thing, Zach, is when a player from the Denver Broncos hits the open market, it's basically a sign that the Broncos are not planning on bringing him back.
Yeah, I think they could have saved themselves some money by signing him now as opposed to waiting until next offseason. They could have saved $3-4 million per year. I wouldn't pay him $15 million. I'm usually pro player getting their contracts. Look how I feel about Philip Lindsay. So Justin Simmons deserved to get paid, but I understand in this particular offseason, in this offseason alone, the Broncos not re-signing one of their own to a market resetting contract. It's not $8 million a year, $9 million a year. I mean, we're talking $14-15 million. And is Justin Simmons, as good as he is he worth resetting the entire market? Did the Broncos learn from Juwan James? Is it too premature? That could be the case. And in terms of Rich Hurtado, the jury's still out to me because Melvin Gordon contract, that was the first real big deal he negotiated in terms of a star player. Kind of overpaid for Melvin Gordon. Didn't re-sign Philip Lindsay. Kind of played hardball with Justin Simmons. I understand his negotiating style is different than Sullivan's. It might be a little too team-oriented, I should say. They need to be a little more open. Simmons is not the fifth or sixth best safety. I would feel it's a slap in the face to me, but I've seen some comments also that he's going to be demotivated or pissed off or mad at the Broncos. I don't see that in Simmons at all. I think he's a consummate professional. He's a consummate leader. It doesn't sit right with him, but it's only going to motivate him, much like Philip Lindsay, to prove to Denver, I'm worth investing in, and to the NFL, if Denver doesn't want me, hey, I am a top 2 safety who deserves to get paid.
Yeah, and Mike Kliss of KUSA reported on Wednesday that it was an amicable disagreement. They agreed to disagree. We've heard from Justin Simmons every chance he's been able to speak publicly that he wants to be a Bronco in the long term. Every chance we've heard from Elway on the subject publicly, he wants Justin Simmons to be a Bronco in the long term. Great platitudes, but for whatever reason, they didn't convert into a reality. Now, the Broncos still will be able to control Justin Simmons contractually through this year and next year if they so choose through the franchise tag, but I really don't see this as the end of the world. The biggest thing that concerns me isn't any kind of a trickle-down effect on Simmons emotionally, because he's a very mature, very composed, very poised, football player. He knows he's a man about his business. What I worry about is, again, that precedent. Zach, we talked about this when Matt Paradis was about to hit the market. You got to show, and again, he's getting a huge increase in pay this year, so it's not exactly apples to apples to the Matt Paradis situation, but you want the young players coming up in that locker room to see that, hey, look, man, if you do it right, if you, not only on the football field, but in the community as a leader in the locker room, if you do it right, this team is going to reward you down the road. And he is getting rewarded, but it's not a true commitment. It's not a long-term commitment. And I just wonder what kind of an effect, because players will talk about this. I mean, just earlier, it was Tuesday night, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, Kansas City Chiefs safety, lambasted the Broncos. We can read the tweet later because we want to get our superstar Mark Langley on the horn here in just a second. But other players outside of this team are going to be criticizing John Elway and the Broncos for not seeing the forest for the trees here with Justin Simmons. So you got to believe that players inside that locker room are going to be talking a little bit too.
I'm glad he brought up the Chiefs, because yesterday when the Chiefs re-signed Chris Jones, miraculously after giving Patrick Mahomes $500 million, I think it was Matthew Judon who tweeted at Matthew and said, how's the real estate in Kansas City? So they have the reputation that we're a very player-friendly organization. If you play well, they will take care of you. The Broncos don't have that right now. If you play well, we draft you 4th round, 1st round, undrafted. You play well, you don't get a new contract. You could be a 2-time 1,000-yard rusher, Pro Bowler like Philip Lindsay, and they will sign a rival player who questionably in some areas is not better than you. They won't reward the all-pro safety in Justin Simmons, but they'll sign Kareem Jackson, last offseason to a multi-year contract. It's not consistent. Elway, it doesn't matter if it's Simmons next offseason, Philip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton, they got to extend one of their own. They have to send the message that we will take care of you if you perform well in Denver.
It's a stark distinction. I believe it was Andrew Mason on Twitter. It was either this morning or yesterday. I don't recall now. But he pointed out that only 4 Elway draft picks have received a second contract. That does from the Broncos. That doesn't count That doesn't count for what it's worth. College free agents like C.J. Anderson and Chris Harris, who both got second contracts with the Broncos. But I can't wait, Zach. We want to hear what Mark Langley has to say about this. Tonight, of course, is our fourth installment of the Super Chat Superstars. We're bringing on Mark Langley. We're all going to get a chance to talk to him. You guys get to put a face to a name, as it were, on his YouTube account here in just a few minutes. But first, and we're going to get Mark's take on the Justin Simmons situation. But first, guys, just a couple of really quick matters of business. As the show and as Mile High Huddle continue to grow, we want to make sure that our awesome listeners that are new to the family know how to reach us and connect with us on social media. Make sure you're following the podcast, first and foremost, at Huddle Up Pod on Twitter. That's crucial to keeping your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening with this show in real time, especially if you're a Super Chat Superstar. But everybody that's listening to this podcast, you should have a Twitter account and you should be following the show. While you're at it, make sure you're following Mile High Huddle on Twitter, at Mile High Huddle. That way, you're not missing anything on the podcast side, and you're not missing anything as it relates to breaking Broncos news and analysis as it's unfolding in real time. So take care of those two things. And then, gang, if you're in a position to do so, we want to gently bring to your attention the merch store, huddleuppod.com, that if you dial it back, Zach, to when was it? End of December, early January, when we finally launched this thing, it was at the behest and in demand by the community. The community wanted us to get some merch up, and we did. And it's been amazing the way that our community has just attacked the merch store. But we want to make sure everybody knows that's out there. It's another great way for you to support what we're doing here at Mile High Huddle and on the Huddle Up podcast. Get yourself a hat. Like I just realized I'm not wearing a hat tonight. Football Priest hat, Football Priest t-shirt, Mile High Huddle hoodies. There's mugs. There's face masks. There's a little something for anybody, male, female. Go check it out. It's another way to support what we're doing here. And if you're not in a position to do that, weird times, we understand. These three simple things each and every one of you listening can do. Whether you're listening with us and you're in the stream live or listening after the fact as a podcast on demand, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, especially on YouTube, like, and then share this out. If you really like what Zach and I are doing for you, share it out there. Help us reach new listeners and grow within Broncos country.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, Zach, I want to grab Mark, but before we do, just because I'm paranoid about the stream jumping comments and super chats, we have a very generous showing here. We're going to grab Mark in 1 minute from Mundungus, who has, again, when we see super chats like this, it literally floors us. Mundungus is relatively new to the community. We were just talking about this before we went live tonight. In fact, we're like, you know, it seems like he's only been at least active in the chat stream, active on Super Chat for like 3 weeks, and he's already flexing. There's only a very select few superstars that have been that generous to the show, and just understand, Mundungus, it means the world to Zach and I, to John. It just is very humbling. So thank you, my friend. And here's what he says. Hey, hashtag football wizards. Celebrating my mom's birthday today, so not going to be able to make it live, but I appreciate you guys and everything you do on the pod. I have become twice the fan I was before listening to the Huddle Up podcast.
Awesome.
That's very, very, very sweet. Appreciate that. Then he hashtags, of course, state of being, hashtag Raiders suck, hashtag Mark is hilarious, and hashtag Denver Broncos for life. So, Zach, I think what better way to introduce Mark Langley. You guys know him as the comedic relief, the comedy relief here of the Huddle Up podcast. Organically, he's come up through the community. Here he is in the flesh. Let's grab and bring him onto the show. Mark Langley. Mark, thanks for joining us, my friend. It's good to finally see you and meet you face to face. How you doing tonight, brother?
What's up, my guys? What's going on, dude? How you doing?
Oh man, we just been excited, looking forward to this episode. It's number 4 of bringing on our superstars. And I think, Zach, you know, we can speak for each other on this, that we've gotten a kick out of being able to meet people. You know, this might not be literally face to face, but being able to hear someone's voice, see their face, engage with them directly like this, man, it's just been a blast.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm very humble. Thank you for what you guys do for community, do for us. Because if it wouldn't be for, you know, to come on and do what you got to do every 4 days a week. Appreciate it, man. Much love.
Mark, I'm going to jump right in. It's the question on everybody's mind.
I can hear Zach.
Can't hear me?
No, he's got you.
Oh, he does? Okay. Well, I can't hear him, but.
Oh, he can't hear Zach, really?
No, I can't hear Zach. No,
I think he blocked me.
I can hear you. I just can't hear Zach.
That's really weird. I'll ask the question.
Okay.
Zach, anything you want to ask while we're live with Mark, just put it in the private chat.
I was going to say, just tell us, when Garrett Bowles hurt you, Mark. Tell us the story behind that.
Zach wants to know
I can't read lips. Okay.
When Garrett Bowles hurt you, what he did to upset you. Those months or years ago. What was it that traumatized you so?
Dude, man, when he had, this guy's had 4 years, and I'm going to break it down. This is my perspective about the whole thing. This guy's had 4 years of this production. Okay, I'm a beast, and I love myself. That's great. I'm glad you love yourself, and I'm glad you're a beast. He's a stud. He really is. But learning the game, come on, man. How much time do you need? Space between the years, right here. Space. What you get paid for production, man. You don't get paid for. Well, I'm still learning. You just don't. I believe you come in, you do your job. That's what the NFL stands for, not for long. And that's just my take on it. I got nothing against the guy. The guy at all. He might be a good person, but I'm just talking about. I always garbage his trash time, and his trash time is his production. So why would you have a last name Bowles? I know he probably can't help it, but what can you do, man? That's why I'll sit there and I'll come up with a joke, and I'm like, I'm not even writing this down or thinking about it. You're like, okay, it's there.
It's ripe for the taking.
It's ripe for the taking. Either you're going to laugh about it or not. And you got some people out here, why he's so mean? Why is he messing with my man?
That's Twitter.
We're all grown. We take it as for what it is. But yeah, no, I hope if he turns it around, man, this year, I'll light up on it a little.
So that's what to take away here, everybody, is he is a Bronco. Yeah. If Bowles can turn the ship around, Mark's right behind him. So one other thing I wanted to ask you. We've got a lot of I'm sure, and by the way, to the community right now in the live stream, any questions you might have directly, any supers for Mark, let us know. Put them in the stream. John Buonabeast will get to them, put them on the screen for us here.
Okay.
But Mark, we were just talking tonight. Obviously, the news broke earlier today about Justin Simmons, and before we went live, we mentioned we were going to ask you about this. We didn't want to hear what your take was because we wanted it raw, live on the show. Justin Simmons doesn't get tagged. What was your gut reaction for Broncos country?
They're making a grave mistake. They really are. They're making a grave mistake. This guy's got to get paid, dude. I mean, he deserves it. He deserves it. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the game with the Saints where they were trying to kick the field goal. He caught it.
Oh, yeah.
Ran it to the house. I like this guy, man. I like what he stands for. I've watched his video about, just in general life about his family and all that. But he seems like a good kid, man. I don't know, man. There's a lot of politics in this, and there really is. And you don't know what we say and speak our minds doesn't matter. But I think he deserves to get paid. I mean, I really do. Who else? It's just hard to find, man. It really is.
Here's Mark. Here's a message from Zeus McPeak himself, who was on with us a couple weeks ago. Fellow Super Chat superstar, fellow MHH Mount Rushmore member. He says, Mark, you rock, brother. And Stu, of course, we thank you, my friend, for your generosity as always.
Yes, I do too. I love you, Stu. Stu! Okay, so let's get this Zeus. Let's get Zeus out of the way. Mount Rushmore, Christy, thank you so much. These people come in and they do what they got to do because they love you guys. I love you guys. Chad tells me, hey, Mark, you don't have to pay another donation anymore, man. You don't have to give any more money. And I'm like, well, Chad, you know what? I want to give you some sign language, but Steve Austin, Stone Cold, is not here right now. Let's crack some beers. I love you guys. Christy loves you guys. Stu loves you guys. All these people's been here for a minute. Stu and Christy. And Christy, she goes out of her way, man. She seems like such a good person. I watched her first, when you guys had your first live stream with the Super Chat fans, just a nice lady, man. Nice lady, man. And Stu, that dude is smart.
Yeah, he is. Very smart. Yes.
So
his command center is something to his command center, something to marvel at.
I couldn't believe it.
We got Eclipse Stormborn also jumping in. showing some love. He says, happy hump day, Priest and Broncos country. He says, let's go, Mark. Plungers, Scotch Brite, and scrubbing bubbles for toilet bowls. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag 8K on the way.
See, I got some fans out there.
That's right. And for what it's worth, real quick, Eclipse is going to be on the show next Wednesday, so we look forward to
I'm looking forward to see this cat, man. He's really shows a lot of love, man. He shows a lot of love. Eclipse, thank you, man.
Appreciate you. All right, John, as we're going, any other supers that come in? I see one here actually from real quick from Glenn jumping in. Appreciate you, Glenn. And by the way, if you guys saw the selfie that Glenn sent in of his man cave, his Broncos man cave, I don't know if that's your office, Glenn, or what, but that was one of the most impressive Broncos man caves I've ever seen. He's rocking the MHH hoodie. He's rocking he's actually got the mug. And then not only that, in the picture, he's got his laptop open, and it's open to milehighhuddle.com. It was just like the perfect selfie. We put it out on Instagram. We put it out on Twitter and Facebook. So Glenn, appreciate it. He says, wondering if we'll be talking about number 72 tonight. Go, Mark. Hashtag MHH. Hashtag.
I think I already – I appreciate that, man. But, I think we already got that discussion in and out the way.
Here's a question from James Campbell across the pond. Appreciate you, James. He says, give us your best Joe Flacco roast, Mark. Hashtag state of levity. Hashtag state of being. So your thoughts on the Joe Flacco experiment that was?
I made a while back, I think it was last year, and I'll try my best on this. Last year, when Flacco said in his press conference, he was like, hey, guys, who's this guy right next to me? Oh, my gosh. He goes, I'm not here to show him or tutor him or anything like that, but I will tell you what my favorite band is. What's that, Joe? It's a flock of seagulls, and I ran so far away, and I ran so far away. That is my favorite band, guys. Drew, eat your heart out. So I mean, seriously, man. I mean, Joe Flacco, I think, is a statue that was in the making. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's Drew Lock is the quarterback now, and he's gone. So that's all that matters.
All right. So, as is the tradition on these segments, we like being able to, especially, we're going to grab Steven next here. We like being able to find out, Mark, how, especially, under the hashtag state of being, right? I'm not going to, I'll let you choose to reveal if you want to exactly where you are geographically, but let's just say it's not in the state of Colorado, and you are one of the members of this community that exemplifies state of being. How did you, with where you're at, become a Broncos fan?
Originally, I'm from Pueblo, Colorado, and I lived there 10 years. My mother's side of the family's from there. I watched the Super Bowl with the Giants, and I think it was 86, something like that. Super Bowl 24, somewhere in there. My bad. I don't know stats all the well like you guys. You guys got the brains, but I was 10 years old. I was like, who is this stud muffin? Who is this number 7, Mr. Pigeon Toes? I'm going to throw a bullet straight through your chest and leave imprints on there. Oh, he really is a Christian. Hey, man, I already was. What, you got to brand me? But anyway, no, I'm originally from Pueblo, and I moved here in 80, right at first part of 86, December of 86. I left there when I was 10. We moved here. My dad used to work for the CF&I. Steel Mill Corporation up in Pueblo, Colorado. And he was there 14 years. My mom's dad worked there for 34 years. And God rest her soul. God rest her soul, man. I miss her because it's been 9 years. All I got is my dad. And that's just it, man. We're Broncos fans. It's Orange Crush. It's not. And I'm in Dallas, Georgia. And Dallas, Georgia's like, hey, man, there's a Dallas, Texas. I'm like, yeah. And there's a Dallas, Georgia.
Where? That's right.
It's not on the map, dude. So I'm going to tell you that right now. But it's not just a state of being; it's a state of levity, and the levity that you guys deserve. And I try to bring the laughs, trying to bring the jokes, trying to make everybody laugh and smile, man, to have a good time because we're in uncertain times right here, man. It's not good. It's not good, dude. It is not good. It really is. So you got to keep the thing. So yeah, that's where I'm from, Chad. That's where I'm from, dude.
All right, brother. Show me that, John. From Okay, here's from Jared on Facebook. He wants to know, I'd like to know what Mark thinks about the cornerback situation in Denver. So let me just set the stage real quick, Mark. AJ Bouye coming in, basically replacing Chris Harris Jr. Everyone's hoping Bryce Callahan bounces back, and then you've got some up-and-comers like the rookie Michael Ojemudia, Isaac Yiadom. We'll see if he ends up as a safety, Devontae Bosby, and Devontae Harris. So your thoughts on the cornerback situation? This is a great question, Jared.
Bryce, my point is staying healthy. We got to stay healthy as far as that. Callahan, I like him. He seems like he's got something working for him. But like I said again, but Michael O, dude, I don't know, man. That's a dark horse right there. I'm really excited about that kid. I saw him on tape. I'm like, man, he's got a chip on his shoulder. And he's not afraid to hit. He's not afraid to, he's not. And I'm not knocking prime time, but it's like, oh, my bad. He's not going to tackle someone. But I'm looking forward to see Michael O really progress. And I'm telling you now, as far as Yiadom, boring. Dude, come on. I'm hoping he can turn it around himself. But Bouye, oh, dude, man, dude, I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of people's like, who's this Bouye guy, man? Well, of course, Jacksonville. Am I right? Jacksonville Jaguars. Am I right? That's what we're saying. Okay, so they're like, Mark, what do you think about that? And he was like, well, dude, Bouye, booyah. So that's what I say about that, dude. I mean, it's that's my cornerback situation. I just hope we can stay healthy, but I want to see this Michael O kid, man. I really do, dude. I'm so stoked.
All right. Your take, really quick. This is something Zach and I have been dying to get to.
Duke's on. Duke. What's up, man?
And he says, Pueblo, Colorado. I rode Yellow Jacket before he became a PBR Bull. Impressive, Mark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Love you, man.
Stephen wants to know, and I'm glad this is why I wanted to wait on Stephen. Thanks, John. This was my question for you. What's your outlook on Drew Lock for 2020? Do you think Lock, as Stephen wants to know, will rock out this year?
Well, if I'll say this, if Patrick Mahomes can do it, Drew Lock can do it. It's just that simple. I love this kid. Just like his dad said, let him play the game. Just let him play. Just let him go out there. He's going to have his humps and bumps. It's going to be more bumps than humps. But but I'm just saying he's a good kid. And when I saw him in Houston, I was like, God, this kid's got some swag. I saw him in Missouri, Georgia, SEC country here. And I was like, my wife was like, well, he could throw that ball. I was like, you have no idea. But and like I said, let me go back to the Houston, Texas game last year. He was already going through his second and third read. And I'm like, how many rookie quarterbacks, answer me this, can throw a 42 or 43-yard pass in between a safety and a corner in a dime in the bucket? You see what I'm saying? How many you can see that, man? I mean, there's not very few you can see that. Yeah, I know. And Zach's right. But very few that you can see. Now, I do see some mistakes, like when the pocket's not collapsing, he rolls out. He'll take off because I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's jitter, but I believe this kid's the future, man. We haven't had Elway. Elway is, let me tell you something about this man. It doesn't matter if he's got his name stamped on his team. He does. He is the Duke of Denver. He's the one that made Broncos relevant. And I'm not talking about 1977 team. Yeah. That's the Orange Crush, and I believe that with Lyle Zato. But I'm going to tell you something. For 16 years, and for him to be a GM, I'm telling you, he made this team what it is today. We got 3, dude.
Yeah, well said. All right, Kevin wants to know, appreciate the super, Kevin, KP. He says, tailgating with you, Mark, would be the best, brother. You bring the energy.
Well, I'm glad you guys feel the same, man. I really do. I feel the energy from you guys 4 days a week, I mean, I love it, man. I love it. I love Zach. Zach, he'll give his honest opinion, and he'll look side to side. Yeah. And he'll and if you, yeah. Let me go back to that comment. Let me go back to that comment right there. Let me go back to that comment. Okay, I'm going to reply to you right. Also, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, then why are you on here? Next question, please. How y'all doing? How you doing? You know,
I feel like I'm getting roasted in the nicest way possible right now.
Mark's an OG. He's been listening and following Zach's work since the 24/7 Facebook days. So, and Chris, by the way, jumping in, $20 super chat. Really appreciate
Thank
you, Chris. And we're looking forward to getting you on here in the very near future too, my friend. He says, here's to the Bowls Reform Fund. # click those little thumbs up. Appreciate that, Chris. And Mark, we got one more for you. One more question for you. And then we're going to cut you loose for this particular episode. We'll get you back on again, of course, once we have some real football product on the field to analyze. But what is your record prediction for the 2020 Broncos? How is this thing going to unfold?
Man, I don't know, Chad. That's the toughest question I've had since I was a Bronco fan. What are they going to do this year, Chad? What are they going to do? I don't know. People just let them. I'll tell you this: let them stay underrated. And I'll be honest with you. I say 10-6, dude. Now, I'm optimistic, man. I'm so optimistic, man. I just believe it. If we're going to match Kansas City, and let me tell you something about Kansas City. Why would you have color of uniforms after a canned good? Andy Reid looks like Chef Boyer Reid. All you have to do is Chef that. I'm just saying, dude, Chef Boyer Reid. But I mean, like I said, I'm very happy for him. They done good this year, and 10-6, and we can match it. I'm not looking to win the division, but if we can get a wild card, dude, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it.
All right, Stu's giving you props, giving you compliments. It's been great having you on the stream, Mark. And we look forward to getting you back on here in the near future. I would tell everybody how to connect with you on social media, but outside of YouTube, you don't have any social media. So find him on YouTube. You guys know how to connect with him. He's always in the stream 4 nights a week.
Yes,
we got to change that. We got to get him on Twitter.
You and Zach are my social media. You're my social media 4 days a week. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. And like I said, man, as always, go Broncos.
All right, brother. We'll be in touch soon. Much love to you, man. We appreciate everything you've done for this podcast and everything you do in the community, my brother. I know this is weird. For some reason, you can't hear Zach, but
tell him to click the microphone underneath on the box underneath. I think that's what he did.
Hey, try. Zach wants to know. We want to test this. If you can see that little box of his head underneath the main box, there's a little microphone. Unclick it. Is it clicked?
Let's see.
You see a little strike through the microphone? Just real quick. Sorry, gang. Bear with us. This is for our own future edification. Now that was used on the box on Zach.
On the box on Zach?
Yeah. Okay, do you see the mic thing on him? Is it X'd out?
Yeah.
Now talk, Zach.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so try to fix the audio. Okay.
That's okay.
It might not work. Sorry.
We'll figure it out next time.
You got
it.
I can hear him now.
You were right, Zach.
You're the best, Mark.
Oh, my gosh.
I wanted you to do that so I can tell you how much I appreciate you personally, Mark. You are the man. Seriously. You got the little send-off, too. As always, go Broncos. You remember that from 24/7.
Yes, sir. And Zach, you're the man. You're the man, dude. The hat backwards and all that. Look, dude, if you don't like it, love it or leave it, baby. It's America. Anyway, as always, go Broncos. I don't want to hold you up, guys, again tonight.
All right, bro. Okay.
Take care.
Thanks, Mark. We'll see you in the stream, my friend. And you guys find him on YouTube. He is Mark Langley. There he goes. He's the man, the myth, the legend. Mark Langley.
Oh, man.
I didn't realize. I mean, I knew we were going to have some smiles and some laughs tonight, Zach, thanks to Mark. I didn't expect to be just in stitches like that. So
my cheeks are right now. I mean,
he brings the state of levity. That is no doubt.
He's a blast. I think Kevin said it in the comments that it'd be fun to tailgate with, just pounding some beers with, just watching a game with. Any situation, Mark brings the camaraderie and the levity. He is the best. Appreciate you, Mark.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
It really is. Well, hopefully we'll see him in the stream because we still have about half the show to go. And there are some other issues we want to get to. We can't ignore T jumping in, though, early. He said, appreciate the super chat, T. And I don't recognize you in the chat stream. I don't recognize you on the super chat. So welcome and thank you. We appreciate your support. He says, mixed feelings on a fat extension for Simmons. He was great in 2019, not so great in 2018. He took a huge leap, but it was a contract year. That is a concern. And Zach, the one thing I'll say is T's basically echoing what I said earlier. So to contradict both myself and to rebut a little bit of what T's saying, or at least add some context is, remember, 2018 was Vance Joseph's final year in Denver. He was scrambling, injuries to the cornerback depth chart. I mean, it was brutal. They had Justin Simmons playing literally. He started games at every position in the defensive backfield. So that's why it's hard to awesome, T. It's hard to completely blame him for not just crushing it and knocking it out of the park in what was his third year. He's been a 3-year starter. There's a good sample size there. The Broncos, in all honesty, Zach, they have enough of a sample size and exposure to Justin Simmons at this point to know what they're buying here in terms of a long-term deal. I get that they might want to see if he can duplicate it in order for an elite level salary, but still, it's not like it was his one and only year in Denver, 2019.
Scheme makes all the difference, Chad. When Vance Joseph and Joe Woods were around, they were playing Justin Simmons at strong safety, and playing Darian Stewart at free safety. It made zero sense. Last year under Vic Fangio, they moved Justin Simmons to a full-time free safety role. It allowed him to play center field and maximize his ability. He's a natural playmaker. You either have that or you don't at the safety position. He's right up there with the Jamal Adams of the world, of what Earl Thomas used to be. He just has that playmaking ability, and he brings that to the secondary. I understand why the Broncos were apprehensive, but I also agree he wasn't just strictly a one-year wonder. It wasn't just a flash in the pan. He took up the entire pan. The pan was bubbling over. That's how much potential he has. But I just think the Broncos want to see him do it one more time before they open up the checkbook for top 1, top 2 safety money, not top 5, top 6.
We got John jumping in on Super Chat. Really appreciate you, my friend. He says, kind of bummed we didn't lock up Simmons, but on another note, I got my 85-inch TV yesterday, and I'm ready for some Denver Broncos football to start. And, Zach, we're only 13 days away now. It starts on the 28th. Today's the 15th. By the way, I hope you guys all got your tax returns in, or if not, filed an extension. It is the extended tax day deadline. I took care of my business today.
Me too.
I wait till the last second to give my money to Uncle Sam if and when I can. But anyway, John, appreciate that, my friend. Broncos are coming here very, very soon. And then we got David Kilgore jumping in. And David, we're going to have to get you on the show here in the very near future. And who knows, Zach, maybe we might have to end up kind of figuring out how we program, how often we have superstars on. But because it's just so many of them, and we want a chance to be able to talk with everybody. But David jumping in, very generous super.
Yeah,
Thanks, my
you,
friend.
David.
Look at that profile pic, Zach. I mean, it makes us proud. We love you, bro. He says, if Denver doesn't sign Simmons, do you see us getting a free agent or a draft pick to replace him? So I assume what he means by that is in 2021, if the Broncos and Justin Simmons end up parting ways, how do you replace him? And Zach, to kind of piggyback on top of that question, how hard do you think it would be to replace him, considering it's a safety-friendly scheme that Vic Fangio runs?
It is, but safeties at his caliber don't grow on trees. I mean, like I said, he's not just good against the pass. He's not just good in run support. He's not just good in the locker room. He has all three of those qualities. He legitimately is an all-pro top 3 safety in the NFL. I don't believe he's going to walk in 2021, but if he did, Kareem Jackson's getting up there in age. They don't have a promising third safety on the roster like Will Parks just yet. We have Trey Marshall, a couple, undrafted guys. That's not what you want to lean on if you lose a bedrock player like Justin Simmons. So I don't think he's going to walk so fast. But if he did, playing devil's advocate, they would have to use a high round pick or open up the checkbook for another safety to replace the talent they're letting get away. The safeties are an important part, Chad, the entire defensive backfield in the Fangio defense, especially with Donatello.
And you've heard me make light, or I shouldn't say make light, but minimize perhaps Justin Simmons' impact on this defense because of the scheme. I don't want to go overboard on that because he is a special, special player. And what he brings to the table between the ears and what he brings to the table as a leader, I mean, his intangibles are as valuable as his physical gifts on the field. So he would leave a void if he were to leave the Denver Broncos. And if that happens, and hopefully it doesn't, knock on wood, but if that happens, the Broncos currently don't have anyone on the roster that could replace him. So it would have to be a draft pick or a signing. And by the way, Duke jumping in with a very, very
incredible,
generous super chat.
Thank you so much, Duke.
Appreciate you, my friend. He says, thank you for your pod, brothers. No question, but just wanted to shout out to all our family at MHH. That is very sweet, Duke. We love you, my friend. And that video you sent me, one of these days when we have you on the podcast, we might have to play that for everybody or at least you'll have to tell that story because it's a very unique story. I'll tease it by only saying Duke has a very unique meet cute with Mike Shanahan on an airplane that it has a twist at the end that, speaking for myself, I didn't see it coming. Duke, thanks, my friend. Yeah. Mike Evans jumping in, Zach, with a very generous super, one of our bona fide superstars. And Mike, this is an invitation. Not everyone wants to do this. Not everyone wants to have speak to thousands of people live and have a light shined on them. But if you're interested in coming on the show as a superstar, you just reach out and let us know. But he says, guys, we are trending in the right direction going into camp. Have we done everything possible to get into the playoffs? Zach, if there's anything left undone, they've had a pretty good offseason, draft, free agency. If there's anything undone to get to the playoffs, what might it be?
It's got to be offensive line, either left tackle, having a replacement in mind for Garrett Bowles or Juwan James at right tackle, or the secondary. I agree with the previous comment that said cornerback depth, Chad, considering the unknowns, considering the new personnel in that defensive backfield, it's going to take some time to come together. And if there's any hitches, if there's injuries, it could devastate that secondary. They need they're one Amukamara, they're one Cordy Glenn or Kelvin Beachum away from having a perfect offseason, more or less minus some of the contracts they handed out. They've done everything in their power to improve. They centered the entire offseason around Drew Lock, which is the most important thing. They built around their franchise quarterback, but just adding some veteran depth at those spots would make it just the cherry on top for me.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, to echo what you said, cornerback, if everyone stays healthy and one or two guys show up like Vic Fangio is expecting them to. Vic Fangio has two guys in mind that are young that he thinks are going to take a step forward this year. Cornerback might not end up being the problem it appears to be on paper sitting here in July. And then offensive tackle. If Bowles, who a lot of pressure was taken off of Bowles because of Drew Lock's unique ability to avoid the rush, Juwan James stays healthy. You get this, if those two positions are covered, let's just say, and at least not a glaring weakness, they're not exposed to be, constantly hurting the team. This is going to be a dangerous, dangerous squad. Even if those two things end up rearing their head this year, this team's going to be dangerous. And by the way, I know we put Christy, John put her on the screen, but I didn't get a chance to read her actual message, so I wanted to read this. Appreciate you, Christy. So generous. Much love to you. The queen of MHH. She says, best pod duo in the biz. Thanks, guys. I know Mark will do amazing. Very sweet, Zach.
As always, yeah. And Mark did amazing, and Christy's amazing, and we truly have the best fan base, Chad, in the entire world. It's incredible.
Also exemplifying the hashtag state of being north of the 49th parallel. For those of you who aren't geography majors, we're talking Canada. That's where Terry's at, up there. Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a state of being, baby. And we really appreciate that generosity. No specific message from Terry. Excuse me. Just showing some love. And it means everything to us, my friend. We're looking forward to having you on. So today was the 4th episode of the Superstars. So it's going to be exactly 3 weeks from today. We'll have Terry on. It's going to be a gas. And we got James. So, John, the last one before mine does a jump is James's Joe Flacco roast. Just FYI, in case it does a jump on us, that's where I'm at. Okay, I'm doing real quick, Zach, while I scroll up and see where the conversation is going in the stream. I wanted to get your thoughts, and maybe I should reserve this for tomorrow night, but it's been on my mind. Yesterday, a user, milehighhuddle.com community member, Studley14, I don't know, if he's in the chat stream, if he participates in the live podcast, he does so by maybe a different handle, but on the website at milehighhuddle.com, it's Studley14, and he brought to my attention the fact that Drew Lock was the hardest quarterback to sack in the NFL last year. And I'd heard some stats, and I'd realized a few things about his time to throw and things. So I saw that, and I thought, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole and do some of my own research. And Zach, I want to get your thoughts on this. Let me pull it up real quick here. Drew Lock last year, let me read to you. If you were to guess the 5 hardest quarterbacks to sack in the NFL last year who had at least 150 dropbacks, who were some of the names that you might think would be on that list?
I was muted by accident. Sorry. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Those got to be up there.
So interestingly enough, you named a couple of them. Here's how the list goes, and I'm going to read the name. This is the list of the top 5 longest times to be sacked from the snap last year. Number 1, Drew Lock, 4.30 seconds. Number 2, Kyler Murray, 4.11 seconds. Number 3, Deshaun Watson, 4.10 seconds. Number 4, Lamar Jackson, 4.05 seconds. And then Aaron Rodgers, number 5, at 4.01. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't often do this, but I'm going to quote from my own article here. Locke was pressured on 36% of his dropbacks last year, which ranked 39th in the NFL. So that's kind of an indictment on the offensive line. However, he was only sacked, Zach, on 8.1% of his dropbacks, despite being pressured 36% of the time. So to me, this is just, we talk about how Garrett Bowles just seemed to be a different player down the stretch last year, and especially once Drew Lock got inserted, was only responsible for 1 sack on Drew Lock from weeks 13 through 17. But Drew Lock, if he's showing that level of elusiveness and command and pocket poise and pocket sense, it also speaks a little bit, Zach, to his ability to read the pressure pre-snap. Those are all encouraging things, and it all helps to it's another piece of the puzzle on explaining and understanding why the Broncos sold out this year to build that nest.
I was going to take it a different direction with Garrett Bowles. I think he kind of weakens the argument that he got better with Drew Lock under center. It just does. That Drew Lock is so good at evading pressure. And you talk about offensive line. Kyler Murray's offensive line in Arizona, terrible. Deshaun Watson's offensive line in Houston, terrible. Drew Lock's offensive line last year wasn't great. They did get better. It was a noticeable improvement. But to say that Garrett Bowles became this all-pro left tackle with Lock under center, it was more that Lock made everyone else look better than the offensive line playing better with Lock at quarterback. So it's very encouraging, Chad. I have some of those plays I've posted on Twitter. He gets away. He's very Tony Romo-ian. He's very Aaron Rodgers-ian. Rowan, yeah, Mahomes, that's easier to say. The way he evades pressure and manipulates the pocket and always gets rid of the football. It's fun to watch, and that's encouraging. That even if the Broncos' offensive line breaks down this year, if Garrett Bowles goes back to being, use toilet bowls to quote Mark, that Locke has the wherewithal to get away from that danger. David
jumping in as well while we had Mark on, and maybe Mark, you can answer this if you're in the chat stream here. He says, "Hey Mark, what's your opinion on Cap?" And maybe it's better that we didn't particularly get to that because I don't want politics.
Oh, man.
Show. God love you, David. We love you. That's not a can of worms I particularly want to open tonight. But let's grab Jeff C., who has a very unique friend. I just read a unique question. Appreciate the super as always,
Thank
Jeff.
You,
he says, "Does Jerry Jeudy enjoy being a Bronco? Asking for a friend." I think what he might be speaking to is, unless I'm missing something here, Zach, you're better at interpreting some of these things than I. However, I think what he's talking about is some of the weird concepts that Jeudy and Hamler had about Denver, the Bears, the Lions, the Tigers, oh my. And then he gets here and he's talking publicly about not being able to breathe and all that stuff. But what's your answer for Jeff?
I think it's just Jeudy kidding around. I think he's just acclimating to a new environment. And if any of us moved to Denver, if we weren't used to it, it would be weird. It's a lot of nature, a lot of wilderness, it's different kind of weather and altitude. And he's coming from Alabama, so he doesn't really have that kind of exposure. I don't think he hates being a Bronco. He doesn't know what a Bronco is just yet. He hasn't taken one snap in a Broncos uniform. I think he loves being here. It's the team who drafted him. It's a team he's probably going to have a very long, prosperous career with. I don't see any serious tone, though, Chad, in what he's saying. I think it's all very lighthearted.
Yeah. I mean, and in his defense, he still hasn't gotten paid yet. He hasn't signed his deal. He hasn't received his rookie signing bonus yet as a first-round pick. Right. We got a new Super Chat superstar jumping in, a name I don't recognize in the chat or in Paul? Super Chat. Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate you jumping in like that. He says, "I'm a long time, first time." Awesome, dude. Well, I'm glad that you're jumping into the conversation. He says, "Thank you all at MHH for the best Broncos conversations." And then a compliment to Mark. Mark is killing it. Love from Oregon. Denver Broncos for life. That's cool, man. We have a lot of listeners, Zach, that are in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. And Paul, if you have a question, feel free to drop it in. We'll try to get to it.
Of course, get it in there, my friend. And look, he comes on the show, and then he shows enormous generosity and love to MHH. Mark Langley himself. How you like me now? Thanks, guys. It was fun. I love you guys and Broncos community. #HuddleUpPod, #FootballPriest. It just I don't think his rendition of the conversation I had with him was perfectly accurate, but I did tell him, I was like, Mark, dude, we just want you in the community. The super chat, the money. I mean, we just don't. I don't even care if you ever super chat again. I'm never going to ask you to do it. Just come be a part of the community. We need you in the community. So, Mark, I mean, you just floor us every time, bro.
Yeah, and it goes for everyone else out there as well. We just want your interaction and your banter. You just being here with us is everything we can ask for.
It really is. Okay, we're sitting at 49 minutes. We have a little bit of time left. Let me grab this point here from James. The Broncos have to manage the transition between paying their veteran defense with a young rookie contract core on offense to paying their blossoming offensive stars and getting younger on defense, which it is a unique obstacle. It's a unique challenge for John Elway and Matt Russell to, figure out how to navigate. How much of that do you think is playing into what's going on with Simmons? Or what happened with Simmons?
A lot. And it's when you have to negotiate with a franchise tag player, when you consider them one of the stars and one of the foundational building blocks of your defense, it complicates things. But if the Chiefs can give a player $500 million, then come back a week later and lock down a defensive stalwart with another mega contract, the Broncos and Rich Hurtado, who has skin in the game, he's been around a long, long time in the NFL, they can find a way to get this done. They can find a way to re-sign Simmons. They can find a way to keep Lindsey if they want to. They can find a way to re-sign Cortland Sutton down the road, Drew Lock down the road. It can be done. The salary cap, Chad, is an illusion. I'm not trying to sound a tinfoil hat right now. I'm not trying to introduce theories or red pills. It's an illusion. You can manipulate it and finesse it so easily if you have the right thinking and the right guys in place. And they can do it with Simmons next offseason.
I echo that 100%. KP's got a recommendation for our merch store. He says, check out this idea. Denver Broncos for life on the front of the T, DB4L. On the back, MHH Fam 4L. In a packed stadium, we could see that shirt and be like, yo,
Stu.
We'll take it under advisement, my friend. We plan on putting a bunch of new designs and
when we can
on the merch store.
Limited.
Yeah, because of the word that shall go unnamed, we've kind of had our hands tied in terms of being able to create new designs. That changes at the end of this month, though. So we're going to be flooding it with some new designs, and we definitely are open to suggestions. So thank you. Ron Dubb, speaking of Super Chat Superstars,
thank you.
Anytime
Ron.
He's in the chat stream, which is almost every podcast, he shows love on Super Chat. And Ron, we appreciate you, my friend. And if you ever want to come on the show as a superstar, let us know. Reach out. We're connected on Twitter. I think we also are connected on email. So just let us know, my friend. He says, hey, guys, 2019 campaign for Simmons with 93 tackles, 15 passes defensed, 4 picks. Those 4 picks, by the way, career high. I just don't see how you don't pay the man. Imagine all the leadership qualities that will be gone if we let him walk. Ron, I totally get what you're saying. And at bottom, I don't disagree with you. Zach, that's the disquieting thing to me is, look, I don't want to panic Broncos country, and especially people right now are really riled up about this. But the disquieting element to this is we've seen this type of posturing before, disappointing negotiations with a player doesn't quite turn out the way you think it's going to. And usually that player is in the not too distant future no longer a Bronco. Now, I'm hoping that's not the case with Justin Simmons, but logically, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, when this new league year opened, they literally didn't even have enough cap space to purchase one of their own tickets to the stadium. That's how close against the cap they were. And yet they found a way to make, not only, as you say, Patrick Mahomes $500 million contract, but they also got 4 years, $85 million on Chris Jones with the cap. Where there's a will, there's a way. Teams can massage it, manipulate it, defer signing bonuses into the future. It can be done. What was the sticking point here, Zach? What was the holdup? Just Justin Simmons' ask was just a bridge too far? Or was it simply just a matter of Justin Simmons wanted too much and wasn't willing to budge?
I think it's market value. I mean, he sees players like, Anthony Harris getting the franchise tag. He sees Eddie Jackson as a number 1 paid highest safety in the NFL. I mean, Eddie Jackson, is he a bona fide household name? Is he Ed Reed? Is he Earl Thomas, Eric Berry? No. Justin Simmons, if he wasn't playing for Denver, if he played for the Patriots or the Chiefs or, the Niners, he would be a household name. He has more talent, I believe, overall than a player like Eddie Jackson. It just comes down to market value. The Broncos did not want to pay him what would be 14, 15 a year. They paid him fifth to sixth highest paid, which would be what? 11, 12. It'd just be a skosh over what the franchise tag pays. So I understand it from his side. I want to get paid, commensurate to what I believe my ability is. And the Broncos did not want to go that high. So I think Cliff put it best. He said Broncos and the agent for Justin Simmons, Todd France, they agree to disagree. And it happens sometimes. You can always pick it back up next offseason. But like the way that Simmons broke the mold by being the one franchise tag guy who didn't get a deal by the deadline, he's going to break the mold by being the rare Broncos player who gets a second contract in, extended future negotiations. It will happen. They are not going to let him walk. Elway knows what he has in him. He knows what he brings to the team, the community. He will be in Denver for the long haul. It's just the multi-year contract is taking a little longer than we all thought.
Okay, Glenn wants to know if we saw the letter the Broncos sent to the season ticket holders today. And yes, I'm glad you bring it up. It was something that we were either going to get to today or tomorrow. But here is some of the new information, the things we didn't know before this letter was sent out. We didn't know how the Broncos were going to handle attendance. Were they going to allow partials in? What were they going to do? Here is some of the new information. I'm, for what it's worth, reading off of Mike Kliss's article, 9news.com. I'm going to quote him here. Among the new information the Broncos provided to their season ticket account holders in light of the word that shall go and mentions impact. For the first time, Zach, the Broncos officially acknowledged their home games will be played before a reduced capacity this season. Empower Field at Mile High has a capacity of 76,000+. Local government officials have yet to determine how many or even if fans will be allowed to attend those games. The number of fans allowed to attend the home games may vary through the season and will be set following consultation with the governor and Denver mayor. So Governor Jared Polis and Denver Mayor Mike Hancock. And then talks about Brittany Boland, the task force she led. Here's the other new information. Fans who do attend will be required to wear masks and adhere to social distancing guidelines. To help make the stadium experience as safe as possible, the team and stadium district have added cashless concession options, touchless bathroom fixtures, sanitation stations, and air purification technology, all of which was mentioned by John Cronenberg last week in his article. So good job on that, John. Here's the third one. Although the selection process for game day seating has not been finalized, it figures that season ticket priority numbers will be a factor. Season ticket holders who wish to opt out of attending games in 2020 because of the word that shall go unmentioned will be able to receive a credit or refund, which echoes what all teams have done up to this point, without penalty to their priority number and standing for the 2021 season. Those wishing to opt out, though, this is good information, must notify the team by August 14th. Let me see how many there are. A couple more. Season ticket holders who opt out and take a refund and then change their mind during the season can still purchase single game tickets. That's good to know. The Broncos, that's because if people are scared right now, but then things turn around or a V word comes out between now and the season, people might go, look, I'm good to go. I want to come back. The Broncos also acknowledged for the first time fans will not be permitted to attend the team's training camp workouts at UC Health Training Center. We saw that coming from a mile away. And then despite having the NFL's longest sellout streak at 51 consecutive years, including 2020, and leading the NFL with a 97% renewal rate, the Broncos are acknowledging the wide-ranging effects of the word that shall go unmentioned. So, Zach, not a whole lot that we didn't anticipate. In fact, nothing there that we didn't anticipate.
I just don't see how the NFL is going to do it. I mean, if they try, how can it be competitively fair and balanced for everyone around the league? I read that the Eagles aren't allowing, I think, any fans in their stadium this fall. It's just a team-by-team basis, and I wish the NFL would get more serious about the macro issues plaguing the sport right now with 2 weeks left until camp. We're a month and a half away from the regular season, almost 6-7 weeks or so. What's going on? How are we going to do things? I mean, they're dragging their feet along and they're solving the small issues like banning jersey swaps. But how about fans in the stands? How about practices? How about what's going to be locker rooms? What are we doing? We're right up to the deadline here, and they've kicked back the entire offseason shot of the NFL. They're the only sport that wasn't already in season. They didn't have to put a pause on anything. They didn't have to cancel anything. They let it play out, but now we're right up until the start date, and we don't have any concrete issues still hammered out. I think leaving it on a team-by-team basis or a state-by-state basis is I don't want to say irresponsible, but how could you balance that? How could you, one stadium have 80,000 fans, one stadium has 20, one stadium has 0? How is that going to work?
What I read on Philadelphia was that everyone's locked down. It's very draconian right now because everyone's scared in that fine city, but that they were going to let the Birds play, that they were going to let people go to the Birds game was the only exemption, is what I read. So maybe there's something new that's come out since I read that. But see, I take the opposite view on that. I think that because it's a market by market scenario, different states right now, depends on the governor, depends on, what the current situation is with the word that shall go unnamed. And teams just have to roll with those punches. If you're a team that doesn't have a particularly large outbreak concern compared to, New York or Florida team or a Texas team or whatever, and you're the Denver Broncos, why shouldn't you be able to have your fans in the stands? But at the same time, the NFL, Zach, was so worried about competitive balance that they weren't even letting players and coaches come into the OTA, right, into the team facilities for OTAs, regardless of whether or not there was a stay-at-home order in place in that local jurisdiction. So I get what you're saying, though, because there are some contradictions. But I think that as we're inching closer, for the teams, obviously we know billions of dollars are at stake, but for the players, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake. So I think they're going to find a way to get it done. And at worst, if things just completely go to seed here with regard to the word that shall go unmentioned and gets out of control, I think they'll just no fans. That just play the season without no fans. But I still take encouragement from all of this. The fact that the Broncos sent out this letter, we saw it from the Packers, we've seen it from the Ravens. I think pretty much at this point, all teams have done it. There might be one or two exceptions. That means the season's happening. They're expecting it to happen. They still have to iron out some deets with the NFLPA, but sounds like that's going to happen.
That's the most important part to me. As long as we have this season, I don't care if there's fans or no fans. As long as we have football in the fall, I'm happy about that. I don't like the inconsistencies, Chad. Like you mentioned, it was closed down for everyone. Now it's opened back up for some. I just don't like how the NFL lately has handled this.
All right, guys, we are over the 1 hour mark, so we got to get going. So I'm going to rapid fire these remaining superstars, super chats that are in the stream here. Dennis, jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, Dennis.
He says, enjoyed Mark. What a kick. Coming to Denver in October, what do you think will be the chances of getting a single game ticket coming against Miami for the Miami game? I'm not sure. Is there a Miami game? I don't think there is. Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There is. Hashtag state of being. I'd have to research that. I don't even know if you'll be able to get tickets on the secondary market right now. And I don't think the Broncos are allowing individual ticket sales like they normally do traditionally right before the season. So they're leaving that benefit, I guess, to season ticket holders. So I'm not sure, man. That's Dennis at this stage sitting here on July 15th. I don't know what the answer to that question is for you as far as getting a single game ticket yet, bud.
And that's kind of my point. How don't we know that answer yet, Chad? It's July 15th. Training camp's around the corner. We don't even know if we have preseason yet. Is it 2 games? Is it no games? Is it 1 game? What are we doing? The NFL, they're slow playing this now. It's becoming a detriment. So, Dennis, I understand your frustration.
All right, Duke, giving you a preview to the story I mentioned. Anybody want a peanut? Just a tease. I would do the impression, but I would butcher it and look like a complete idiot. But I think most of you know what we're talking about there. All right, last one here, gang, and then we got to get going. Rick James jumping in. He's saying the word that shall go unmentioned is fake news. I think both Zach and I agree with you that there's too much fear porn going on out there. But it's real. The thing that shall go unmentioned is a real bug, let's just say it. It's real. So unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with here. But Zach, what a great conversation and opportunity to talk with Mark Langley. And a great outpouring of support in the chat stream and on Super Chat. Great night of podcasting.
I just can't believe it's an hour and 3 minutes already. Where does it go? I feel like we just hopped on. We just talked to Mark. We just got into Justin Simmons, and now the podcast's over. It flies by, which is another testament to all of you out there.
Amen to that. Amen. All right, guys, we got to get out of here for tonight. If you had a specific question or Broncos issue topic you wanted us to get to and we missed it, circle back, because tomorrow night is the Mile High Mailbag, our favorite podcast of each and every week. So stay tuned for that, and we'll grab you on the backside on Thursday night. And echoing the guys here, just a reminder, wherever you're watching this live right now or after the fact, make sure you like the video before you bounce out. Simple, easy, organic way to help support what we're doing here. And then last thing here, guys, before we say good evening to you, make sure you're following my partner on Twitter, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, myself, at Chad and Jensen. It's a great way to connect. We will follow you back. You let us know you're a Huddle Up podcast listener, and we can DM and all that good stuff at Huddle Up Pod as well, and at Mile High Huddle. Okay, we'll get out of here for tonight. Zach, have a great night, bro, and we'll circle back tomorrow night for the mailbag.
Of course, you too as well, Chad, and everyone else out there. Can't wait for it. Like you said, favorite night of the week as always.
John, appreciate everything you do. Buona Beast. And thanks for all of you joining us. And a mile high salute to our Super Chat superstars. And special shout out to Mark tonight. Good job, my friend. For Zack Kelberman, I'm Chad Jensen. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.